We have a great question. So Natalie, our producer, is going to read the question for. Make sure your mic works over there. Is it working?
I think we're good.
Testing.
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm excited.
Hi, Michelle and Craig. My name is Ronan, and I'm 41 years old. I've got a question about that big, frustrating topic, dating. More accurately, I should say, how not to date. Let me explain. Throughout my 30s, I was in and out of relationships. One was very fruitful. It lasted several years, but in various respects of our lives, the timing just did not align, so we ended up splitting up. Since then, I've found myself in relationships that have been very clearly unsuccessful. One woman's creative and professional interests totally matched mine, but we fought constantly. Then I was with a woman who was great. Our leisure interests were similar. Her family was great, but I was just not that into it. Something was missing. Most recently, I ended up in a longer-term relationship that my friends at least would call toxic. We had great chemistry, and I was really in love with her, but she struggled with sustained intimacy after a recent divorce. And as a result, I got myself caught in a pretty regular cycle of hurt. Since then, my dating has been a mess. I've been distracted by women I simply find attractive, but who otherwise clearly are not a match. And in the meantime, I still find myself thinking about my last relationship. So this brings me back to the start of my question. My closest friends are telling me the one thing I need now is to not date. They tell me if I can figure out how to be happy on my own, I'll have a better chance of finding happiness with someone else. The thing is, I am not totally convinced by this. I enjoy dating, but I also understand that what I'm doing clearly is not working. So what in the world would you say to a guy like me? Are my friends right? Should I try to enter into a period of being single by choice? How could I actually benefit from being single if I ultimately really want a partner and family? And if it is helpful, what tips do you have to help me put this period of non-dating into practice and to make it stick? Thanks for your advice, Ronan.
It's a great question.
Yeah. And it's interesting coming from a 40-ish man.
Yeah, I like it.
Because men can marry when they choose to, just like
Well, yeah,
you did.
I thought that was so interesting what you said. When you asked Craig that question, I think it's timing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That when a guy feels they're ready, then who's
They
in
just
front of you.
pick. Right.
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
So crazy.
It is crazy.
And then it
Just
takes
like-
your second marriage to figure out
Yeah.
you need to be discerning.
And for
Yes.
some people, like
I
they
know,
don't,
I
or
know.
fourth, or they never figure it out.
I know.
It's just
I know,
like
I know.
Fascinating.
My technique for the second one I thought was pretty good.
I think that is really, I thought that was
Yeah.
really helpful for other people to hear. The other thing I'm curious is that cultural that men, it's timing? Or is it, I don't know, it's just nature or nurture?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is cultural, right? We grow up waiting to be chosen,
Yeah.
you know? At the school dance, you don't get to dance, or at least in our generation, you didn't get to dance if somebody didn't ask you to dance.
Yeah. And then if you are the chooser, then men are like, you're aggressive.
Oh my gosh, there wasn't any choosing.
Well, now for my generation.
Yeah,
Or I don't even know my generation. For me.
Yeah.
Can I give you just a little
Please.
bit of a different thought process
Okay,
behind
yes,
it?
that's why you're here.
Imagine as a 17-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and you're walking into a sock hop, which I just use for effect, but a dance,
but there are a lot
party.
of kids going, what is
What's
that?
a sock
What are
hop?
your
What's
socks
a
have to do with anything?
You go, but we used to have these sock
It's a
hops,
school
or it's a
dance.
school
Okay.
dance. So imagine you're 17 years old and there's a bunch of girls in there, and you go ask somebody to dance, and they say no, thank you.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
And then you go to ask the next person, and they say no, thank you.
Oh, no, I don't like this.
But that's how it was.
Yeah, that's hard. That's very
how
hard.
it was.
Mhm.
So the question you have to ask yourself as a guy is, do I just take what I have, or do I take the chance of asking the next person and they say no?
Yeah, the courage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
And
that's
it is,
real.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
real. So
It's an important perspective for sure.
Yes.
And it is hard, but ultimately you choose, right? It's scary, but so imagine the girl who is standing in the same sock hop with her shoes off now, all embarrassed because she's standing in her socks.
See what I have to put up with.
I have 4 siblings.
Waiting to be asked, and people are just passing her by, and they're a bunch of shy boys not even trying. Whereas a guy can decide that the decision is still a man's to make.
Right.
Is it though always? I just think culturally that is what we say. Yes.
I think culturally, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The original question was,
yes,
is it nature or nurture? I think a lot of it is the culture that gives that power.
I agree.
To men. Now, it's a difficult power to have because with power comes responsibility and hurt and risk and all that. But even to this day, as you said, Tracee, if a woman crosses that dance floor to ask, she's aggressive. It's an unattractive quality. So now I either wait to dance or I don't dance at all.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
And I also would say, as a boy or a young man, if a woman walked across the floor and asked me to dance, it was no way I was going to say no.
Well, I think obviously there's all different kinds of people.
Yes.
There's all different kinds. I mean, and then we're not even entering into the gender fluidity within this conversation.
Absolutely. You're right.
That is so much a part of what the younger generation is making sense of. And I think they're actually doing that really beautifully.
I do too.
And I've learned so much from the gender conversation and how it's expanded. I've learned so much about myself and what are the expectations that I didn't know were expectations about being a woman that I'm like, oh, I don't need to own that because I just thought that was a given, but now I know it's not, But I think the societal norm, yes. I mean, I had a guy say to me recently, you can't make a man do anything he doesn't want to do. But culturally, you can make a woman do a lot of things she doesn't want to do because we're trained culturally to acquiesce in that way, that's our role, that we are. But I mean, this guy, Ronan, I love the question because first of all, what I will say to Ronan is no one knows you better than you.
That's right.
And your friends can have all the suggestions in the world. And some of them might be helpful ones and some of them might be ones you want to consider.
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that you have to do is ask yourself, does that feel right for me? Does that really feel like what's going to get the growth to happen?
Yeah.
And sometimes not dating helps people discover that. And sometimes dating is the thing that helps people discover that.